back to Pima Voices. My name is Savannah and I'll be your host. Today I'm sitting down with Regina Santaniello, who is a full-time welding faculty member at Pima Community College, and today we'll be exploring the world of welding. How are you today, Gina?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to come down to the studio
Absolutely.
and having this conversation. I know we were getting a little too excited before we started today, but I was like, I am ready to talk about this topic and sit down with you and discuss everything. I think it's going to be really fun today, so I'm excited.
Also, me too. Don't get me started talking about welding. I won't stop.
Well, that's good for today. So for those who don't know who you are, do you want to give a little background to our audience about who is Gina and what is your role at the college?
So I am the welding faculty, the third faculty of the welding program. We just became a center of excellence and moved into our new building, which allowed for more students, which allowed for another position to open. So what I do is I am a part of a team, and we now offer more classes to the community, which is great because our classes fill up so fast. So even with a third teacher, we're still have that need out there, which is great to see. Good problem to have.
Yeah, I think I've heard before from Greg that there's usually like a wait list.
Oh, yeah. Like our
welding.
classes, I think we broke the internet once during registration, which was kind of cool. So basically, our classes open like everyone else's classes, but by about 12:30 a.m., they're full. So we had a record of like 15 seconds once for a class.
Goodness.
So they're very, very, there's a lot of interest in them, and which makes me happy because when I started as a student, a Pima welding student in 2005, it wasn't like that. Like people didn't really know there was classes, and it wasn't as popular. And so to see it grow over the past 20 years, wow. I just realized like it's been 20 years since I was a student here. So yeah, it's wonderful to see the program grow to what it is today.
Yeah, it's super
and be a part
cool.
of it.
Yeah, I mean, like when you look at the space that you guys have now, it's so much more space. Because I remember when it was in before in that tiny little building. I remember I like peeked down a small hallway and it was like a couple cubbies, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
it's a really small space. Like it felt really tiny, and I was just like, okay. And now there's like this whole floor that you guys have. It's a huge change and difference.
Our old space could fit in like the foyer of our new space, which is crazy. And I was also a lab tech for the welding program, so to see like to be a person that has worked in that lab, the smaller lab, and seeing all the space that we have now and all the possibilities, like it's just amazing. Like it's a center of excellence, but I'm like, it's so excellent. You know what I mean? Like, it's excellent. Like,
you're like, it actually really is excellent.
It's actually pretty excellent.
I think it's really cool that you guys have that space now. And then, like, you being a student and just seeing all the changes that have happened and things that you've been able to achieve now, and then full circle, now you're faculty and you're teaching the next generation of welders. And, I was telling you earlier, like, how cool welding is and how I just the other day took a little mini welding lesson, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really hard. But I was like, I feel so cool right now, like practicing these little, you knew the technique name, but I was like, I don't know, little dots, but
beads.
Beads. And I was like, this is so much fun.
You're laying dimes, Savannah.
I was like, this is so great. And they don't even have welding at the U of A, which is where I kind of like peeked in and kind of took that little mini lesson because they have a space there. And so the fact that Pima has that is so wonderful.
It's a whole program. Yeah, it is. It's really cool. It's I feel like I'm not a historian by any means, but I remember hearing that Pima, when it first started, the welding lab was actually, they put a welding lab, but it wasn't going to be like it was kind of like an afterthought, and they were going to eventually turn it into maybe like the auto paint booth or something, and it hit it off, like, so like it's just like how we are now one of the programs that's like one of the most popular programs in applied technology and advanced manufacturing. Like it's and we're kind of circling back to it because there was a need for it, and then then it kind of stopped, and the schools weren't doing like the hands-on classes anymore. They started kind of getting away from that. Internships weren't really that prevalent, and then it's coming back. So with the world and being that the industry itself is like the average age of a male in the welding industry is a 55-year-old male. So like they're retiring, and who's going to replace them? Mm-hmm. And so now people are like wanting to get that skill and like get back into hands-on, and just you take welding, automotive, all these wonderful things. Like it's not just welding or auto or AIT and stuff. It's like you're training your brain how to work differently. Like you're a problem solver now. You think outside the box. Like there's all these great things that CTE and have all this research has shown is that there are programs, what they do as for you as a person as a whole. So it's just cool to see it coming back in such full force and being a part of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're there like firsthand. Like,
in the trenches, man. In the trenches.
And so to take a circle back a little bit, so, you took it at Pima. Mm-hmm. It's obviously a very male-dominated industry. Mm-hmm. And then you made a career path out of it. And so did you feel as if there was like a welcoming for you as a woman in that industry, or did you feel like you had to like really push yourself to say, hey, yeah, I can do this and I'm just as good as you are or better?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So when I started in the program, the first day of class, the teacher at the time, who's no longer a teacher here, long time ago, was like, welding's dangerous and you could die. And I was like, oh my God, like, what am I getting myself into? Because I didn't have any experience. I didn't grow up in a shop with my dad. Like, I didn't have that. I was just looking for a career to support my child. And someone said, try welding. How do you do that? Go to Pima. Okay, I'll go to Pima. So my first interaction it was intimidating. But then I remembered when Ken Bice, who is a former teacher as well, who used to be our department head, came on board, and he helped me get my first job. So he was very, he was easy, like very approachable and very like cool. Like I could say, hey, I'm struggling, and he'd help me get a tutor and stuff. Like I saw the change between being a first-time student and then watching new people come in with this new ideas of like, meeting students where they're at and then getting them where they need to be. So my story of entering industry is funny because Ken Bice helped me get a job at a job he worked at when he started as a welder. So I show up to this job, and I know the owner's name is Mike. And I said, hey, Ken Bice sent me, I'm very new. I hadn't graduated the program yet. I was very new. He's like, oh yeah, I'm so busy. Come back tomorrow. I was like, okay. Walk away. Then the next day, amp up. All right, yeah, I'm ready to go in for the interview. Show up. He's like, I'm too busy. Come back tomorrow or whatever, right? So the third time, I show up with my tools. And he's like, yeah, I'm really busy. Can you come back next week? I'm like, no, I'm here now and I'm ready to work. Yes. And I got my tools. And that took a lot because I wasn't very an extrovert at the time, or very like, I had thickened my skin and became what I am today by being in the industry. I wasn't, very like, hey, I'm advocating. So I remember showing up on that third day with my tools, like, no, I'm ready to come here right now. And I'm ready to start. Where do I go? And he's all, yeah, let me introduce you to the guys and who you'll be working with. Like, I just kind of demand, like, I'm here now, let's do this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he would tell the story, like, yeah, she shows up with her tools, like, give me a job or else. I'm like, I did not do that. Actually. Yeah, so I kind of remember that as my, like, origin story, where that's when it started for me, when I knew that it was going to be different. And I wasn't naive to the fact that what I was about to try to do, I was coming into a male-dominated industry. And my advice from people then was, you can do anything anyone else can do. You are capable. There's statistics that show that sometimes women even have that attention to detail that, that's better maybe. Yeah. But what I went in was, my advice that was given me was be humble, listen more than you talk, and respect the fact that you're new, you're different than what they're used to, and give them grace, right? Like, so when I walk in to a shop, I'm the only female, and those men had been working there for 20 years, and I'm new on their territory. So having that respect for that, and I think that's super important. And what I try to pass to females going into industries, like just, times are changing, okay? But sometimes it's still a little old school there. So 55-year-old males, so be kind, be patient, and be humble and learn from them. I used to say old timers, but maybe that's not such a great term. Now I call them the welder elders. All the cultures have their elders, right? And they tell the stories and they teach the young people coming in the ways, right? Yes. So at Pima, we teach these students the basics to get hireable, but really they're going to learn how to become a welder from the welder elders. And if they go out there humble, female, male, doesn't matter, they go out there with that respect, they will teach them. They are very open to wanting to teach their craft, what they've been doing their whole lives, their tricks, and it's amazing how welcoming it was. And there were times where maybe was a little more roadblocks, a little more challenges, but I have good memories of beginning, as intimidating as it was,
Yeah, I know. I appreciate the fact that you mentioned, I was going to say before you said it, respect your elders.
Respect your elders. Yeah. Respect your welder elders.
Yeah, I think it's really cute that I was like, I don't know if cute's the right term, but it's so cute. Respect your welder elders. But yeah, I think that's another great point, especially being, whether you're new or just woman or male, but especially for women coming into a male dominated field, sometimes I feel as if women want to just gung-ho head first, yes, but it's okay to take that step back and be okay, show me the ropes first. Mm-hmm. You want to learn from people who already have that experience, and then you can lead from there. Yeah. And I think that also will gain a lot more respect within Absolutely. The people around you and where you're working, which also will just make your career path a little bit easier. So
maybe a better work environment for everyone, and also making them as comfortable as you would hope that they would make you comfortable. I tell even male students, you go into that welding industry with the chip on your shoulder and your one certification. Oh, I went to Pima and I got certified. I know everything. Mm-hmm. You're not going to make it. No. You have to go there out there ready to learn. I said one of the things I tell people about being a welder is your commitment to forever being a student. You don't just learn the thing and then you're an expert. It took me 20 years to put all this information in my head, and I'm still learning, and I'm still, there's new technology and all this stuff. It never ends. And if you're not teachable, that's the roadblock. Yeah. That's the roadblock, is not being teachable.
Yeah, because that just makes it hard to communicate with you.
Exactly.
It makes it hard to work with you. Mm-hmm. And so you just have to be open.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And be understanding. Because in the end of the day, we're at a job to make money to support a family or support us ourselves. But we're people. And we have lives outside of these jobs. And students, it's a student. This is extra. Mm-hmm. This is extra for them. These students are coming in extra on top of their entire whole lives and jobs and stuff, and just respecting that as a whole. We're all here to do this thing, and just making it as hard as it is, because learning, as you had mentioned with your little tutorial, it's not easy.
It's not easy.
You're a welder, you're a scientist, a metallurgist, a mathematician, you're a problem solver. Mm-hmm. You are not just being a welder. You have all these things you have to know to be a successful welder. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot, especially when you have zero experience. And I got to teach you. And I'm here we go.
I know. I was telling you, I felt so cool putting on my gear and getting ready. And then I go to do it. And I was like, oh. Yeah, it's a whole style. Yeah, I was oh my gosh, this is complicated. And I was I went in I got this, which is fun because then I'm excited to learn something new. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it took a lot more strength than I had anticipated as well. And I was am I not strong enough to do this right now?
And that's fair. That's fair. I tell my students when they come in and they start learning how to weld and they're holding a stinger, they're holding a torch all day. It's like you're gonna be a little sore tomorrow, because you're not used to using these type of muscles. And I was telling you earlier, like when I got my first job as a welder, I knew that I needed to work on my strength. If I were not going to be a burden on the people I was going to work with, I needed to be stronger. And so I went and I got a physical trainer. What do you want from these physical trainings? I want to be strong. I'm about to work with men. I want to hold my own. Yeah. Now that doesn't mean I'm strong. I'm as strong or stronger than men. I am a 5'0", 120-pound girl. I have strength limitations, but I can work smarter. I can work safely. I can use team lift. I can use forklifts. So like, just because I'm small doesn't mean I can't do the jobs that men do. I can smartly, safely, with etiquette, shop etiquette, and soft skills. I can make that relationship where I can say, hey, coworker, can you give me a hand? And they'll be like, yeah, you got it, because I'll give them a hand if they need it. And that's where that humility comes in, or humbleness, right? Like where, if you need help or you're going to need help, you treat people with respect first, so they want to help you. So
yeah. No, I mean, you say everything so perfectly. I feel like you have such wise advice to give. You have a lot of like knowledge to give, and it's like fun and interactive, and then you're just like, yeah, no, listen.
We make jokes in my classes, my students. Like I get some evaluations back, and one was really cool. It was like she not only does she teach us about welding, but she gives us life advice. And I was like, that's so cool.
Yes.
Like, wow.
You need that.
I have a business. I work for Pima. I'm a mom. I'm a foster mom. I'm a daughter. I'm a girlfriend. Like, I'm a person, and I'm 44, turning 45 this year. My 20-year anniversary here at Pima. I'm turning 45. And I'm like, wow, like, it took me this long to get where I'm at. So when I have a student struggling, I'm like, listen, man, or lady, it took me 20 years, okay? This didn't happen overnight, and I'm still learning. Like, be patient with yourself. Like, I'm spewing all this information, but I am literally learning. I mean, even to get hired at my job, there was things I hadn't known and I had to, like, teach myself some things and like get better familiar, because just because I know what it is doesn't mean I'm good at teaching it. So like familiarize, here's a lesson I'm doing for the first time, and it's about electrical theory. I am not an electrician, but it's like, okay, let me make myself more comfortable with it so I can relay the message to the students, and they can see, hey, she's a human, she doesn't know everything, and maybe I have an electrician in the class, maybe he knows how to explain it better, and would you please, sir? Like just making it like we're all people doing this together, and there's nothing super, I'm not brilliant. I'm not like, some kind of genius. I just got 20 years under my belt at this point, and here's what I did. Here were my challenges. This is how I figured it out, and maybe someone takes little tidbits of that in life, and
But I think it's also really important in the classroom. Like, it's not just like this teaching environment where you have this instructor reading from a textbook or whatever.
Yeah, reading from a PowerPoint.
Yeah, it's this life experience that you have working in the industry, being a student at Pima. You have all this knowledge that you can then share to your students and who are going through essentially possibly the same path that you did.
Yeah.
And so they're following in your footsteps.
Yeah, because I'm the welder elder.
Yeah, you kind of are a welder elder now. And what would you say is like the most rewarding part of teaching welding to this next generation?
Oh, you opened that can up. So I love teaching, and I have an origin story on that. So I was a lab tech. So I was a welding student, a student aide. I went out in industry. I came back as a Pima lab tech, and then I started this journey to how to become a teacher at Pima, and I did all these steps. But while I was a lab tech, the reason why I wanted to become a Pima teacher was because I had a student write a letter, like by hand, and then put it in an envelope and put a stamp on it and send it in the mail. And I somehow managed to get this letter in my hand from the mailroom. And he was incarcerated. And he had a plan, and he wanted to, when he got out, he was going to go to school, and he wanted to be a welder because he had been in a program. And so the letter had stated, how do I become a Pima student when I, and I was like, oh man, I'm probably not the person this letter should come to. I'm just a lab tech, right? So I started asking questions and Pima resources, right? Like everyone at Pima, like if there's an answer, someone knows it. So I end up going through the right channels, and we figure out this guy's plan. And this is not just an overnight thing. He ends up maybe a year, I don't know, time's crazy, that was 20 years ago. So he ends up being a student, and I'm helping there, and I was also a helper. So if a student needed help, I was there to help as well, because the teacher is busy. I can step in and say, oh no, you got to do this or that, or this is what I did when I took the class. And he's like, hey, I wrote a letter to Pima once, and you responded, you did, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was you. He's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, this student ended up having some struggles with the class, and I helped because that's what I was there to do, cut metal and help, right? Mm-hmm. So let's fast forward a year or two later. He comes back, and he's like, hey, I'm like, oh my gosh, how are you? Because at this point we bonded, like everyone that I teach at this point I have like now a bond with, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh, how are you? He's like, oh, I'm doing so great. I'm a foreman at my job. I'm making the most money I've ever made, doing it clean, like, clean money, dirty hands. And he's like, and I was really struggling, almost dropped out because I was kind of like butting heads with someone. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's like, and you helped me, and you changed, you like helped me, and you helped me through it, and you gave me confidence, and I stuck with it. And I was like, tears, right? Like, yeah. And then that was the bug. That's when I got the bug. That's when I was like, I want to be a teacher. First of all, I want to be a teacher because I'm a good teacher. I'm a good teacher, but also because I could be what I needed when I was a student. And if I can help one person, that's amazing. And it's welding, right? Oh, it's just welding, Gina. But it changed his life. It changed my life. Coming to Pima gave me the opportunity to develop a skill that paid me very well. And from that, I continued to grow in my career to the point where as a single mom, I could buy a house with my own income. On my own. Like, we can't buy houses anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel that's a big deal.
Yeah, no, it is.
So that's when I got the bug, and I talked to Kemba. It's like, how do I become a teacher? And I'm like 20-something, and he's like, here's the steps. And that's when it started. I went and taught at a high school. I went into sales. I went into I was a manager of a welding store, but I would train. So I'd go to people's jobs, their shops. I'd train them how to use their new welders. I would train. I would take all the training available. Anything that they could give me, I would take it and I'd do it. And I was like the person, like, hey, so if we get a discount if someone on our staff does the training, give it to Gina. She's a welding nerd. Here, Gina. I'm like, thanks, guys. So it just progressed and progressed. So when this position came up for the third time, I was like, okay, it's my time. Like, I'm going to apply. I was a provisional, and then I got this. And now it's like, it's kind of like crazy to me that when my 110 students come in on the first day this last January, I'm like, I was sitting right where you are. I was sitting there, and here I am. And like, the possibilities are endless. Like, and I'm so big about it too, because it changed my life, and it gave me the opportunity to like provide for my family, and had all I welded railing in Maui, like I've been so many places. I've done so many crazy things. A lot of this stuff in this town, I can drive around. I said, I welded that. I did that. And it's so epic to me, and I'm humbled by it. And I want to give that to my students. And when they're struggling, like, don't you worry. Like, it's a struggle, and it might be hard now. It might be hard when you get out there. You might have, be a teacher at a school and struggle. You might, think you made it, and it still could be a struggle, but don't give up. And just that's my thing. It's that, and I remember him. I'll never forget him. And he's one of many that I have had the pleasure, the pride in coming to me and saying, hey, thanks, you made a difference in my life. And I'm just like, this is what I'm meant to do. And it's welding. It's just welding. It's not a big deal, you know?
It's more than
but
welding,
still, right?
yeah.
Like it's my catalyst to do. I'm not sure of the wording, but it's like it's the mark I'm going to leave. It just happens to be by being a welding teacher.
It's your legacy.
My legacy. Yeah, my legacy. I like that, Savannah.
I love that. It always takes one person and one interaction to make a difference. And we've talked about that a lot, like in our foundation office, how, we come to work and sometimes we forget. Sometimes it feels like a really hard day or a busy day. There's a lot of things, but then you hear about how one scholarship helped one student, and then you're just like, that's why we do it.
It keeps us going because
it is
hard. Teaching's hard. And anyone's teaching, it's hard. It's a hard job. It's a huge responsibility. Someone comes up to you and says, you know something I need to know so I can accomplish this dream. I can accomplish this goal. I can provide for my family. And now you're given the task to figure out where they are and get them where they need to be. Mm-hmm. But it's not just that guy. It's 20, 24. It's several. And you're juggling them. And on top of that, you come in that day and they see you and you're ready to give your lesson, but maybe you have a whole life outside of there that things are happening as well. These teachers are such hard workers and it's such a hard job. And it's kind of, once in a while you get that student that says, thank you for changing my life. And that one student, maybe in 2 years, it literally drives us because you're not, I don't know. And I'm not speaking for all teachers by any means, but like, why else would you be here? Because it's a hard job.
Yeah.
It's a hard job. So what drives you to be here if it's not that student succeeding, the spark, and that's like a little welding joke, right? A spark in their eye when they lay that first beam and it looks good and they are like, I did it. I'm like, you did it. Yeah. High five.
Yeah.
And like that's why I do it and that's why I love it. And that's why being a welder and being a welding teacher is so cool because I'm so passionate about it and it changed my life and I want to give that back. But at the same time, like I'm teaching it to them knowing how intimidating it is, how it's not just welding, it's math, it's science, metallurgy, troubleshooting, it's so many things. And, people from the outside are like, oh yeah, he's just a welder, he's just a construction worker, he's just a janitor. Do you know what we have to do?
Yeah, I'm like that one little mini lesson I did. Right? I was like, oh, my whole perspective.
Yeah. Do you know how hard my job is?
Yeah. But I just love your energy and your passion.
Thank you.
And I'm all like, sign me up for Gina's class because I could learn a thing or two more
Midnight
with welding.
Registration.
I know, so it's right on there, right on the dot, because it'll fill up. But you have like your energy is so great, and I can only imagine like being in that setting in your classroom in your area. How much the students can learn from you and everything else. And I'm sure Pima is very lucky to have you. I know you credit Pima with a lot of things, but, Pima should give you credit for all the stuff that you're doing, So
I work with a bunch of
cool
people. I work with a bunch of cool people. And it's funny, since I've been here for 20 years, I've seen a lot of people come and go. But so it's like, the whole community college, it's a community college. No, it's a community. Like there's people that I've known for 20 years here. And, my dean, like just having a dean that's supportive of you and just wants to see you succeed and, being a part of a team where you can come to work and you have friends there too. Automotive. I remember when I was staff and I used to hang out with the painters. Like this is a great place. It can be, right? Like it has so much potential to be such a great place where not only do we work here and we're helping the community, but the community gets to come back here and give back. Mm-hmm. My son works here. My son's father works here. My daughter's dad works here. This isn't just Pima Community College to me. This is 20 years of my life. Mm-hmm. And there are friendships and relationships I've developed throughout being here that are lifelong. And I think when people are having a hard day or the job's hard or whatever, like feeling like you're a part of something bigger than you.
Yeah. I mean, I hear it a lot. People who work at Pima, they're usually alumni. They have a special...
We grow our own. We have
a special place in our hearts for the college. And like you said, like, it's family, it's friends, it's community,
3
it's all
degrees of separation.
And it's such a special place. Like, each program holds its own community. Each program holds its own heart. Each program thrives in their own way. But we all come together to create Tucson. And I think that's really special.
We are. I tell people, being that I've been in the industry for 20 years in so many different capacities, if you say Gina from Pima, someone knows me. And it's funny when we make jokes like Gina or Pima famous, but people know, like, oh wait, you taught my dad. You used to work for my dad. This is every day. You know my grandma. You worked with her over here. You worked for my dad. You taught my son. Like, this is my life. And I tell people, like, this, I'm not originally from Tucson. I'm from New York. And I'm like, this is my town and these are my people.
Oh,
like, this
I love
is and it's the welding and these are my people. You know?
That's the energy that needs to be all across campus, right there. You know,
right there,
people.
all over. It just flows. Like, Pima's a hub and it just flows out into Tucson.
Well, I love everything that we have talked about today.
Thanks.
That was one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring you on, is I heard such great things about you.
Thank you.
And I was like, she'd be perfect for March because it's Women's History Month and she's just like a powerful, awesome, amazing leader of a woman. And I was like, and now that you're here, I was like, she's even cooler than I thought she was.
Thank you. That means a lot to hear.
It's just so great to see, like, your passion, your energy, and I know all that's going to the students, and that's just
like it or not,
superb.
Early in the morning. That's the energy they get. Good morning.
But it's great, and it's awesome because it just creates such an amazing learning environment. And I always say, like, education's always been my happy place, my safe space. And you've created such a wonderful setting that I hope, like, it just continues forever in that space. So
me too. That's all we want is a great job where we're happy at. So I mean, that's the dream, right? Yeah,
that
for sure.
is the dream. And before we close out today, was there any advice you had to anyone who wanted to come to Pima to take welding or just get into the welding industry at all?
Yeah, just like, do it. My advice, just do it. Just do it. And just do it. Just take the steps and be prepared that it's hard work. It's hard work. It takes maximum effort. It takes the commitment to forever being a student. And it takes more than just going to work. It takes people skills. It takes, even when it's hard, perseverance. It takes resilience. It is not an easy industry to work in, but if you nurture it and if you go in it with open
eyes, open heart.
If you go into it wanting to be the best at it and doing better every day, do better every day, wanting to be the best at it, it'll give back to you. And even if you try it and it's not for you, it's a cool hobby to have. Every student I know, me included, as soon as you learn how to you learn the beginning stages of welding, right? Because we give you the basics. The industry, the welder elders are the ones that are going to teach you how to be a welder. Mm-hmm. Once you get that little bug, we're trying to start businesses. We got welders. We're welding gates for people. Like, everyone's an entrepreneur at that point. Welding 110, entrepreneurship. And that's another thing I get into with the students. So my advice is just do it. Don't be scared, right? Like, be brave. And if all you get out of it is learning a cool skill to help you fix things around the house or have an entire career out of it, like, it's not a loss. It's great. And if I had to do it all over again, I would. Aww. I would. And it's funny because people say, I have a 14-year-old daughter. Hi, Mia. And, like, would you tell her to be a welder with things you've been through? Because I'm not going to lie. There's been moments, right? There's been times where it was really hard. And I'm like, ooh, that's a good question. When I tell my daughter and I'd say, I would still tell her if she wanted to do it, I would absolutely have her back on it. And she's my daughter, so she probably, has the thick skin, and she probably, she probably is a little bit of me. I would want her. She's brave. I think she could totally do it. So yeah, just don't let it, you get a thick skin in the industry, but don't let it harden you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, if that makes sense. So
It does. It makes sense. And I hope everyone listening has taken something. There's so many things that was brought up today.
I told you, life lessons, welding.
There's something that could be pulled, multiple things that could be pulled from this conversation today. I have enjoyed this so much.
Thank you,
I could
Savannah.
keep going forever.
I know. I told you. You said 30 minutes. I could be here for the rest of the day.
I was like, this is so much fun.
Where's
I was
the
like,
hook?
we're just going to have
Where's
a
the
little
hook?
sideshow about welding.
We'll have our own welding podcast.
You'll see us in the welding booth.
It'll be a comedy special.
Yeah, this is great. And I hope people who are interested in welding or want to know more or anything else, reach out to you, to
Reach
us.
out.
Yeah,
please.
We'll make that connection
Please.
and continue, sprinkling those welding students over there,
Yeah.
learning new things. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much for coming
Thank
in
you
and
for
talking
having me. It
today.
was a great
This has
time.
been awesome.
This has been so cool. Thank you.
And like I said, welding is super cool. I felt very cool doing my little mini lesson, but it is hard work. And like I said, I garnered a whole new respect just in that 1.5 hour little mini lesson I had.
So
I was like,
it is hard work.
This is hard work,
It
but
is hard work.
I can see why people like it and get into it. And I'm excited to see what comes from all these Pima welding students and all the knowledge that you give them.
we're
And
sending
we'll see
them
them in
out
the community.
there.
Yeah, for
sending
sure.
them out in the community, and maybe even if the industry is pretty rough or whatever, maybe sending out all these Pima students and they get to be the change. You know,
exactly.
We change, giving them this kind of education where they also can go out there and be better.
Yes, and well, if you want to take a class, you heard Gina. It fills up very quickly.
Quickly. Reach out.
Definitely sign up for that. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Sana.
I hope you guys all enjoyed the conversation today. It's been a great one, learning all about welding, and I will see you next week for a whole new episode. So until then, thank you.